You're listening to the Journey podcast. Did you know that trapped emotions can impact our physical and mental health? Today's episode delves into the fascinating world of the emotion and body code and how they can help us heal. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. Today is part of Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK, and this is a special bonus episode. The emotion code and the body code are healing modalities that focus on identifying and releasing trapped emotions and imbalances in the body's energy systems. When combined with chiropractic care, these modalities can provide a comprehensive approach to addressing physical and emotional issues. In this episode, we explore the topic of the emotion code and the body code and their potential for promoting healing and well-being. Our guest shares his expertise on these modalities, providing insights into the principles and techniques used to identify and release trapped emotions and energy imbalances. We discuss the benefits of combining these modalities with chiropractic care, as well as the role of self-awareness and self-care in promoting greater health and well-being. Dr. Tony Krohn is a chiropractic physician and a holistic healer. He utilizes chiropractic care alongside energy work and other nutritional and lifestyle recommendations to treat his clients at the root cause. Whether it is inability to move due to pain, deeper rooted toxins and pathogens creating cellular dysfunction, or anything and everything in between, he can work with the body and subconscious mind to spend each treatment session focusing on what the body is willing to reveal and release. The body knows exactly what it needs to heal. We just have to ask it the right questions and provide the correct treatment to bring balance and healing. Let's meet Dr. Tony Krohn. Hi, Dr. Tony. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because the emotion code and the body code are amazing topics for holistic healing. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Petra. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. This is a topic that I would love to know more about. So before we get into it, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and how you got into this really interesting space of work and your story? How do you connect with all of this?
Yeah, so I am originally from Nebraska. So throw a dart at the middle of the map, and that's Nebraska for the United States. And I went to chiropractic school. I didn't really have like this profound healing, miraculous like cure with getting adjusted by a chiropractor. I was just introduced by the chiropractor in my hometown and ended up working for him, went to undergrad, worked for a chiropractor. So it kind of just all like fell into my lap. Knew I wanted to do something in the health field just to get people moving, get people loving their bodies. Went to chiropractic school. During that time, I was at seminars every single weekend learning about the body and focused more on like chiropractic meets physical therapist. So a lot of rehab, soft tissue techniques, just to make sure that I was addressing the whole patient in front of me and not just tunnel vision looking at the spine. So during those seminars, was introduced to a lot of amazing practitioners who were there getting their continuing ed hours. And amongst those seminars, there was one doctor, Dr. Chris Barnes. He kind of introduced me to this newer type of healing, more muscle testing, energy-based, which is emotion and body code. So watching him work on people who were taking the seminar and the stories that he has had with just his own healing, and then him even working on me with some of my shoulder stuff that I was dealing with, it definitely kind of shifted my focus to see what else I could expand my toolbox into with what I was going to be doing. And that was kind of on the back burner. And fast forward, the past 3 years, I was in a private practice doing a lot of that stuff that I learned in school and seminars. So the soft tissue work, dry needling, rehab exercises, all to just help my patients either pick up their grandchildren, lift that heavy weight in the gym, go for a walk for more than a mile, just help them reach their goals. But at the end of the day, there's just this thing in the back of my mind that was telling me there's something more to their healing journey. Like, you're going to get them, let's say 90% better with what you're doing, but I want to find that 10% that really is going to take them over the edge. And so ever since being exposed to that emotion and body code, I knew that there is just an emotional component to everyone, whether that's past trauma, whether that's repressed emotions, you name it. Whatever we store in our body can manifest as physical symptoms or mental health issues or whatever it looks like. That really started to, again, spin my wheels to want to learn more and be able to expand how I help future clients now in my own practice that I'm just starting now. So giving me multiple avenues to be able to treat anyone that walks into my room. So I got certified in emotion code, and then I've been reading the body code book, and then also have been working on clients with body code. So I'm trained in body code, and I've seen just incredible results with what this type of energy healing can bring to the patients.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And there's a lot in there to unpack.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, you found this connection, the mind body link, when you started exploring the emotion code and you started finding out that you can physically help your clients, but that there is an emotional component very often to that as well. So, do you want to explain to our listeners a little bit what the emotion code and the body code are so that they can understand what it is that we're talking about today?
Yeah, so Dr. Bradley Nelson, he's a chiropractor. He developed the emotion code system. So there are 60 different emotions that you can test for using muscle testing to see what the body has experienced, when it experienced it, potentially where that emotion is in the body. And then we're able to provide a release of that emotion to remove that negative energy or that trapped emotion from the tissues in the body or just the subconscious mind. Now, we're not taking that event away that happened, but we're just removing that energetic imbalance or that negative energy from that event, from the body, so it can clear up space and allow the tissues to heal properly, allow the body to communicate better. Because if there's these negative insults or these trapped emotions that are in the body, the cells aren't communicating between each other properly. And so once we remove that barrier, everything just starts to talk with each other a lot better. And that's where the healing happens, once all your body is working in unison and we're not having these roadblocks we're having to jump over, that we're having to take a different route to get to the same ending. We're able to clean up kind of that previous issue that was the actual underlying issue. So we're finding via muscle testing that emotion or emotions during a session to release. And what's nice about the emotion code is that it is 100% confidential. The patient or the client in front of you can be sure that whoever, or at least for me, I am not digging into that past life event that they may not want to revisit. So traditional therapy, counseling, amazing. Absolutely love it. But there are some cases and some times where either patient does not remember that instance, or it's so heavy that if they bring it up, it almost sends them into like sympathetic overdrive. So they're just in that fight or flight, like almost bringing everything back into that like imaginable, like fetal position, just like so thrown off balance because they have to revisit that. Now, what I do in my sessions with emotion code is we're going to find the emotion. We're going to let them know what that emotion is. we're maybe going to find an age, and that's really all I need to help that client bring that emotion or that event to their mind, or just kind of turn that bulb on in the subconscious mind. So our storage place where everything is stored that we don't have to think about. So we're able to release that emotion, whatever we found, and like I said earlier, that energy in the body from that emotion that it caused. So we use muscle testing. So it's a way to communicate with the subconscious mind. And what's nice is you can do this virtually. So even as we're having this conversation on different ends of the world, or someone who is down the street, you can do this virtually because we're all connecting through quantum physics. So it's just our energies are tangling. So we're able to muscle test virtually, or I can do this in person as well. But what I've found is that individuals like to be in their own safe environment. So that's where the virtual piece really becomes beneficial. And we're able to get the information to release the trapped emotion. I mentioned the whole confidentiality piece and the comfort and the ability to find those emotions, because things are so deeply stored in our subconscious mind, or we have parts of our childhood or even a month ago that we don't remember. Even though we don't remember it, we still went through that. And if we didn't process through those events, then we have that trapped ball of energy, that negative vibration, we'll say, still in the body. So that emotion code is a way to address the emotional component to clear that up. Now with body code, it takes it one step further. And yes, it addresses the emotional component. So that's one of the buckets. There's so many other things that can be at the root of why the client is not healing. So it could be things like pathogens, so parasites in the body, mold exposure, biofilm, so these sticky substances that cover our cells that kind of create a protective barrier that is doing more harm than good, even though the body kind of sees it as something good because it's protecting us. But we don't want those pathogens almost like sucking the life force out of us. So we're able to see if there's some sort of pathogen that's driving some of these issues that they're coming in with. Or there's things like environmental toxins. So if there's glyphosate exposure from spraying, or if there's electromagnetic frequency toxicity, or heavy metals from the soil, dirty water supply. So there's all these different passages or buckets that we can test to see what that root issue is while they're coming in to see me.
Wow, that sounds like such a fantastic approach to healing and to holistic healing. And thank you so much for explaining that. Now, I'm curious to know what muscle testing looks like. I would imagine that it's not painful, but can you explain a little bit? How do you muscle test? Like what happens when you do that and how do you do that exactly?
Yeah, so we'll say I have a in-person client. So they're sitting or laying on my table, just however they're comfortable. They have to be comfortable in this space, and they have to be willing to receive this healing. You can use any muscle in the body, and you're almost doing a resistance test on that muscle. Now, it's not a strength test, so I'm not using my power to try and push that muscle through its range of motion. We're just, me and the client are working together with the least bit of resistance possible to see what the subconscious is going to test strong for or test negative for. So if I have them on my table, let's say, for example, I'm doing, if your clients know what a supraspinatus muscle test is, so their arm is out to the side, kind of elevated a little bit, and I'm just lightly pressing down on their arm, asking them specific questions. So I'm looking for yes or no answers as I'm doing this. A strong muscle test or a answer that gives me yes, the muscle will stay strong, the arm won't move. Now, if it's a no answer, then the arm is going to, we'll call it quote unquote break. I'm not physically breaking the arm or anything like that, but the muscle loses its strength for a brief period. You can tell that there's a difference or a change in position of that body part. So this is a way, like I said, we're just asking the subconscious mind whether they have trapped emotions or if there are other issues underlying that we need to address first. So it's just a way to communicate with the subconscious mind. It's no different if you were to go to we'll say chiropractor who doesn't do this energy healing and they're doing a neuromusculoskeletal exam and they're testing the C5 nerve root. So they're, again, medical talk, just checking to see if there's any sort of neurological issue that would cause that muscle to become impaired. Ultimately, muscle testing in person, practitioner is using a muscle to test to get a yes or no answer. Now we can do this virtually. You can do many different ways of muscle testing, but like I talked about earlier, it's the whole quantum entanglement or energies kind of meshing before the visit or the therapy starts, and we're just getting baselines. So I can do a ring and ring method, and all these you can look up on YouTube. Discover Healing on YouTube. They have some examples of muscle testing. Another cool way to muscle test yourself is what's called the sway test. So if you can stand next to a wall just to have balance, but you can close your eyes down, and then a yes answer, you would slightly sway forward. A no answer, you would slightly sway backwards. So you could do simple things as, my name is Tony. And if I'm doing that sway test, I would sway forward just a little bit. And then I could say, my name is Bill. And since that's not my name, my subconscious is going to know to kind of send a negative frequency through the body or no answer in which I would rock backwards. And then you can do that to ask, okay, do I have any trapped emotions in the body? May sway forward. So then, yes, I would then be able to go and identify what trapped emotion needs to be released that the subconscious has prioritized for that treatment visit.
Wow. Yeah, I find it fascinating how we can get responses from the subconscious mind in our muscles and in our body. And then we can actually go from there to help ourselves heal. That sounds fascinating to me. I love that. Now, you talked about using the emotion code, the body code, along with chiropractic, which you do in your practice that you're developing right now. And what kind of differences do you see when you add the emotion code to what you would usually do as a chiropractor? Is there any changes or differences that you see for your clients?
Yeah, so I first and foremost get consent from the patient. And I kind of explain what I'm doing because it looks a little bit different than what you would normally go into a chiropractor for. So I just tell them, hey, I'm able to muscle test and see what the priority is for why you're coming in to see me. So traditional chiropractic visit, I would palpate muscles, I would palpate joints to see where I need to adjust and take their subjective history, so what they're coming in with, all into play and develop my treatment approach for that visit. Well, I can use body code and emotion code to find what's called the priority. So we're in a way bypassing their own subjective idea of how they want treatment to go. So I'm using that muscle testing and the body code system to see what the body actually needs that visit. And so it may look like they need an adjustment. And I can, again, use my palpation skills to figure out where to adjust them, or I can muscle test and ask the subconscious mind where their body needs adjustment. Say they don't need adjusted, say they are in that sympathetic overdrive, or there's some reason why they should not be adjusted that day. Well, there's other things that I can address that will still be able to treat the reason why they came in. It's just giving me more questions to ask the body what it's ready to release that the person on my table may not know is there. So it's a really cool process. I actually had a client, she pretty much bone on bone with her TMJ, her temporomandibular joint. So every time she would open her jaw, clicking, popping, grinding, just that gnarly Rice Krispie sound. So had her on the table and the whole time I was just using that body code system to figure out what imbalances were in the body that were causing that. Now, am I going to fix and bring that cartilage back to, we'll call it full life in her jaw? I can't do that. But I can address how all the tissues around the jaw and elsewhere in the body are functioning to help aid that opening and closing, chewing, talking, all the functions with the jaw. So just in that visit, we cleared several emotions from past trauma. And then we also found that her trapezius muscle, so the muscle that connects shoulder to neck, and that really big meaty muscle on some people, that was really tight and was chronically tight because of past surgeries as well as more trapped emotions that we found. Well, the whole time I was working on her, as we cleared these different imbalances in the body, that clicking and popping continued to improve. It was less and less. She had to move her jaw in greater positions to even get a little bit of that clicking and popping. I didn't even touch her jaw. It was amazing to see how the body just kind of peels back those layers when it's ready to. And then to see the joy and almost like jaw drop response from the client that they've had this Rice Krispies noise for years. And within 20 minutes, I was able to decrease and lessen that severity of it by doing this energetic, this emotion and body code work. So that was just one example of how like a session looked and what I was able to do for them. And they could go to another chiropractor or physical therapist or dentist specifically for this TMJ case. And everyone's going to have different approaches and they may get to the same result, but asking the body specifically what it's ready to let go of and what the priority for that visit is crucial to not only respect the patient in front of you and make their time worth it, but also respect the body because it knows exactly what it needs, when it needs it. There's that book that is super popular right now, and it's such a good, dense read, but it's The Body Keeps the Score. So the body just knows exactly what it needs and when it needs it. So we just have to kind of strip our pride and ego down and do what's best for our client that visit.
Yeah. Wow. And I would imagine that when people come to see you, they usually have some kind of issue. So, when I go see my chiropractor, it's because I have some kind of pain or something stuck. So, can you describe a little bit what happens to your clients when you use the emotion code or the body code? I'm curious what happens to them emotionally because pain can be very trying and testing if you're dealing with it on a daily basis. And I could imagine that some of your clients experience quite the transformation when you're able to help them with that.
Yeah, exactly. So as we're releasing emotions, some clients, they'll have like just this weight lifted off their shoulder. They may feel like a sensation just kind of flow through their body, like years of holding in these emotions and almost avoiding them because that's just what they were taught to do and what they know to do. And to have someone respectfully and like gracefully address and release the energy from these emotions, it just gives them a great wave of healing. Now, I definitely want to give a disclaimer, and for all my chiropractors who are listening, like emotion and body code is not chiropractic. It's a way to supplement what chiropractors are doing. So I just kind of got that little like mention in the back of my head to mention something like that because I don't want to degrade or downplay the power of the adjustment and everything else that chiropractors do. I'm just applying different therapies and services to it. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable and amazing just to see almost the gloss kind of like clean off a patient in a way when they have these emotions, this baggage, this weight that's just been lifted off their shoulder. Another thing that we can get into with body code is chakra imbalances. So whether the solar plexus or the heart chakra or the throat chakra, which the throat chakra is really common with people who have a hard time kind of speaking their truth and speaking up. And so if any of those are imbalanced, I actually had a client where we worked on a couple of her chakras energetically with body code system in conjunction with the other chiropractic stuff that I was doing, the soft tissue work and the adjustments. But she said she felt the release and the heaviness and like that stickiness of the throat just melt away as we were working on it. Some clients, they notice a difference right then and there as we release stuff. Some clients notice a couple days later. And there's some people, it's just everyone responds differently. They might not notice anything, which is fine. We're still affecting at the cellular level to help things communicate and work in unison.
Yeah. And I think by the sounds of it, the emotion code and the body code combine very well with chiropractic. And even though chiropractic is a very amazing practice on its own, I'm a big fan of it. This sounds like this really adds to it. And so I love the idea that you can combine the two of them as well, and that you are not having to re traumatize people in order to help them with what's been recorded and stuck in their body. So, yeah, sounds like a fantastic way that you're helping your clients. And I would love to know some more about your programs and services so that our listeners can get a feel for how they could connect with you if they wanted to work with you.
Yeah, so I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee. Chiropractically, I can treat anyone in the state of Tennessee within my scope of practice. So if you're in Tennessee and you want to come see me for chiropractic and we can layer in the emotion and body code, that's great. And then if you're out of state, I can't do chiropractic services across state lines, state by state variance with my chiropractic license, but with body code and emotion code being more of a holistic service, I'm able to provide this service for anyone and do that virtually. So I can help people from anywhere in the world. And I do that. A lot of my work is done on Instagram and social media. I know you'll link that in the show notes, but it's just Dr. Tony Krohn on Instagram. I'm providing a lot of content on ways you can just holistically heal yourself. And so all the booking and everything is done through my link in my bio if you want to work with me.
Amazing. Yeah, I love the fact that this works internationally and energy knows no boundaries. So that's perfect for anyone listening in who's not in Tennessee. And as Dr. Tony said, we will be linking to all of his offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there for how you can get in touch with him and his social handles and everything you need to know to find him. And this has been another incredible episode. And I really hope our listeners have enjoyed our journey into the emotion code and the body code as much as I have. It has been fantastic chatting with you on the podcast, Dr. Tony. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to make an offer. I forgot to do this earlier, but for any of your listeners with their first body code session, I do want to offer $20 off with just code Healing Journey, all lowercase, one word, and then Journey, JORNI, just to give people an opportunity to experience a new, different type of healing. A lot of people I see have done it all, and they've just been spinning their tires in the mud and can't get anywhere. And that's kind of my bread and butter, is to help those who have nowhere else to turn and they're just looking for another way to help them holistically. And again, disclaimer, it's no cure. There's no like guarantee with the session, but I do think that everyone could benefit from either a body code or emotion code session. And that's why I want to offer your listeners that discount on a body code session for $20 off.
Thank you so much. That's very, very generous of you. And I really hope our listeners take advantage of that and start exploring this healing power of the emotion code and the body code for themselves. And I've heard very great things about it. I know a lot of people who have experienced it and who have been positively impressed with it. So I hope that people who are experiencing pain or some sort of distress or suffering are going to find ways to advocate for their health and help themselves with that. So thank you so very much for offering that. And yeah, thank you so much for being here today and explaining all of this to us. It has been a wonderful podcast episode.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great just spending the past 30 minutes or so talking about it, because it is a little bit newer of a service and therapy, even though energy healing has been around for years. But we're just at the tip of the iceberg, or not even, we're climbing up the iceberg of what can happen with this powerful healing. So thank you for allowing me to come and talk about this to your listeners.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm very glad that we could get you to do that because I think we do need to talk about that and highlight the different ways that are available for people to find their healing. So I truly appreciate that. And also the work that you do and that you bring into the world and the healing that you propagate. So, yeah, thank you so very much from my side of the podcast. And take really good care of yourself, Dr. Tony. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please subscribe, share on social media, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the Journey blog. Sending you love and courage, and see you next week.